Well, good afternoon all. We'll make a start. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. A few thumbs up. Thank you kindly. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we all meet today and pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. My name's Andrew Payton, Director of City Growth, Warrnambool City Council, and I'd like to extend a warm welcome to those that have given up your valuable time to join us for what I think's going to be a really important session on a number of fronts. Firstly, to share some important information with you about what support is available to you that may inform or help the way you are thinking about your respective recovery plans. Secondly, I think it's a timely reminder that we do get together, albeit digitally, to continue to keep looking out for each other in a connected and a welfare sense. COVID-19 has undoubtedly turned our lives upside down, and all the things we are used to doing each week have changed. So you throw on top the economic impact, and it's entirely normal to be feeling anxious or confused or overwhelmed or even sad. And I think it's important that we take the time to care for ourselves and look out for each other. So I see this concern for others and examples of people reaching out to stay connected daily. So thank you to those that have been displaying wonderful leadership and compassion on this front. And of course, finally, on a bit more chirpier news, this morning's announcement by the Premier that as of midnight tomorrow, regional Victoria will be moving to the third step in the regional roadmap, and of course that's welcome news for all and makes today's session particularly important as a springboard to the recovery mode, and ensuring that this of course is done in a really safe and professional way. Just a few housekeeping items, if you can bear with me. We do have a high number of attendees in this session in your respective areas, so if possible I would encourage you to turn off your video and sound bar the speakers, just to give us the best chance of clear transmission, and fingers crossed that we'll be beaming in loud and clear. We also ran a process in recent weeks inviting questions to be answered in this session, and most of those questions will be responded to during the content of the presentation. So keep your ear to the ground for your particular questions. Any questions in the session that we can't get to in the body of the presentation, I'll endeavour to respond to at the conclusion of the session. You can also use the chat function in Zoom to ask questions, and again we'll endeavour to get through those, but we'll keep an eye on the clock. We're looking at about a maximum of 90 minutes in this session, so I appreciate it is a bit of a stretch, but there is a lot to get through, so we'll endeavour to keep it as short and punchy as possible. This session is devoted to you, the tourism sector, which of course has been one of the hardest hit sectors from COVID-19 restrictions that commenced in some form or another almost to this day 6 months ago. And I think 6 months, and for some of you that may seem a year ago, for others just like yesterday, because it's all impacted us in very different ways. And it's compounded by the tourism economy being really complex in that it's made up of so many different sectors, many of which are represented in this session today. You may be an accommodation provider, you may be in the food and hospitality sector, you may be in some aspect of retail that has been adversely impacted, or a transport or tour operator, or a provider of tourism product, an event organiser, someone to do with markets. You might be involved in arts and recreation services. All of those sectors and indeed many more have been impacted in one form or another. And of course, similar to your own businesses, council has not been immune to the impacts either. Many of our visitor services, whether it be Flagstaff Hill, Visitor Information Centre, Aquazone, Lighthouse Theatre, the Arc Stadium, have had closures, and similar, your businesses have had staff that have been stood down, although not eligible for JobKeeper. So like many businesses across our city, welfare checks and ensuring that our staff are looked after have been of paramount importance, because it's been a very anxious time for families and friends. So amongst all that huge range of services that the tourism sector comprises, it's been brought to a grounding halt by this sort of wicked and wildly infectious disease that is rapidly approaching 1 million deaths globally. And I won't spend too much time on the statistics and data, but I just wanted to spend a couple of minutes on my observations of the impact of COVID-19 on Warrnambool's economy in particular. There's always a lag in official statistics, particularly unemployment rates and particularly at a small area level, but there is a level of confidence in some modelling that has been done that indicates that the impact of the drop in employment in Warrnambool is around 7% in recent months. So that's not the unemployment rate, but the drop in employment. So we have a labour force of around 16,500 people in our city. So a drop of 7% translates to around 1,100 people. Now that's not FTEs, they could be casuals or part-timers, but what research is also telling us is that those that have been really impacted have been young people, often in transient or casual employment, and also females whose participation rate in the labour market has been escalating, who have been really impacted. It's also an important message to send out that whilst that number is very sobering for us all, we're not an outlier across the state. It's broadly in line with what many regional centres have been experiencing, that drop of 6 to 7% in their employment base. So Surf Coast is around 7.8%, Geelong, Bendigo, Ballarat, all at 6 to 7%, same to Mildura, Shepparton, Wodonga, all around that area, which is commensurate with, I guess, the scale of regional services and the critical mass of visitor servicing that those regional cities provide. But also surrounding municipalities have been experiencing similar declines in employment, around 6 to 7%. Moyne, Corangamite have also been experiencing numbers in that region. The other key statistic that was really sobering is around 1 in 3 Warrnambool businesses have accessed the JobKeeper program. And that's important because, one, it gives us comfort that businesses are accessing it, but it's also disturbing because it shows that many of our businesses have had turnover impacted by greater than 30%, which is the key trigger to access that program. But again, Warrnambool's not an outlier there. Geelong, about 40% of all businesses have accessed JobKeeper. Ballarat and Bendigo at 38%, Wodonga 35%, Shepparton and Mildura around 31%. So as the spread of the virus is contained and these social lockdown policies are gradually relaxed, just like we've heard this morning, it's anticipated that the negative impacts of this pandemic will lessen. And it's important to emphasise that those impacts I talked about are not annualised amounts, they're monthly movements in amounts. So we remain hopeful that as we ramp up the visitor economy in the coming months through the summer period, that the negative impacts in an economic sense will be mitigated in part, and you will begin to experience some positive cash flow generation, which of course has been a source of great angst for you all. So that's enough from me for now. We've got a range of great speakers that are going to be talking about a whole host of information today, but it's appropriate that we start off with the Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism Body, Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism, and I'll invite Liz Price, General Manager of Gort, and Lee Milady from the Marketing Development Area to kick off. Thank you, Liz.
Thanks, Andrew. Now you're going to test my technology capability. Let's hope my share screen works, Beth, or I'll be calling for help. All right, hopefully that's come up for everybody. Lee, do you want to give me a thumbs up just so I get? It has, good, fantastic. So thanks everybody for joining today. And it is great to have an opportunity to talk to you. As Andrew said, this pandemic has been something that none of us could really have prepared for. And it's interesting, having a lot of the conversations with people talking about resilient businesses, but I don't think anybody ever thought that their business would come to a complete grinding halt. And that's what most of you have actually had to deal with. Probably starting off to set the scene a little bit, that we've worked really hard Oops, I can't get it to work. I thought that there is some new people, we've had lots of new people join up and be part of the program. So I really wanted to start by saying that Great Ocean Road Regional Tourism is here as a partner with Warrnambool City Council and our other local government partners, but really to be some support for you as businesses, to offer you advice and resources. Through this period, we've also had a significant amount of training to provide you access to our marketing channels and marketing expertise. And really, as you go through what's going to be a continuously changing environment, I remind you that we are only a call or an email away. I thought I'd start off by saying that I think it's important that we constantly, and as Andrew sort of outlined some of the data around what's happening, it is important to really keep a bit of an evidence base. We do need to be quite agile in how we're going to approach. So it's really critical to understand what's happening everywhere. We've done a lot of work over the last 6 to 7 months, really looking at what is the consumer sentiment, really tracking how consumers are responding to this, when they're right for messaging, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. Really looking at our competitive landscape. Well, at the moment, we're just slowly opening up the different borders. We do know that once the interstate borders open especially, it is going to be a really competitive landscape. Melbourne is our core market, and Melbourne and Sydney, being the largest population bases, are going to be the markets that everybody is chasing. So we've got work to do, not only to keep and attract new people to come to our region to make up for the interstate or internationals that we're not getting, but also to keep that core market coming out of Melbourne that is our bread and butter and really important. If we start to also look at the economic landscape, Andrew provided you an overview of the economics of Warrnambool. That's the situation we're seeing unfold across the whole country. 1 in 4 households has had their income affected, but we're also seeing people having to use up their annual leave. So as we start to build a pathway out, we've really got to be looking at what's happening in those economics. Tourism is a discretionary spend, and so we know when there's pressure on the household income that tourism is one of the things that does go. So stimulating demand, encouraging visitors to want to travel, and encouraging households to get value out of their money is going to be really important. One of the things that we've worked really hard on this time is really starting to look far more granularly at our target audience. Really make sure that we do understand exactly where people are coming from, so that we can be really targeting people to come back. We've really started to hone in on the importance of the domestic market, the importance of, I suppose, the Great Ocean Road market. 26% of our day trips actually come from within the Great Ocean Road region. So that presents us a good opportunity as we start to see restrictions gradually ease, that we can do more to target markets that we probably haven't traditionally talked to. If we start to think then about the opportunity to explore new audiences, we start to see how we've done we do really well out of Greater Western Melbourne, and that's growing markets and growing family markets. So how can we target those and explore some new audiences that we might not have targeted through there? In these crises, we look at some of the new trends that are coming out and some of the great things. Yes, we've all been locked up, so there's a bit of that pent-up demand, and we're hoping we're going to start to see some of that ease as they come into the school holidays. But you've seen people start to value getting back outdoors more. You've seen people that start to value the wellness and their own well-being. So we think these are, again, things that we are strong as a region, that we can start to use as levers to try and get new audiences or get our core audience to come back. And the last part of this equation, which is really quite complex, is also understanding our communities and some of our communities' desires and fears around having visitors come back in. So the importance of making sure that we understand what the guidelines are in place, so we can support the community to understand we are inviting people back in a safe manner. We are going to be facing some form of social distancing, hygiene restrictions for a significant while to come, but we need people to come back for our economy to be viable. So we really do need to give community that level of confidence that we understand the challenges, but we've got the practices in place to make it as safe as possible. I thought I would just touch a little bit more on consumer sentiment, because we've worked pretty hard to try and keep our brand front and centre throughout this crisis, but really mindful that we were watching what was happening with consumer confidence. We saw it was really dropping. We've probably seen in the last couple of weeks it's really rock bottomed, that people don't see and have no interest in travel. That's a combination of things. The restrictions are still in place. Lots of people did lose money through refunds and things. So they want the confidence to know that if they're going to book a holiday, they're going to be able to go. But we also see people waiting to see what restrictions are lifted so they can decide where they want to go. And that's why it's really important, as I said, that we've kept the brand front and centre, and we keep on focusing on how do we make sure that we are top of mind. Intention to travel this time round probably isn't showing as much of that pent-up demand that we've seen in the first side. When the first lockdown happened, there was much more a sense of we're all in this together, and that we just had to lock down and that we would get through it. When the second lockdown happened, we saw people seem to lose that common vision and a little bit concerned of, I can't endure this, or this is going to keep on happening. So we do think that we might hopefully now, again with the announcement today, but as those restrictions gradually ease, we see that confidence and intention lift and people intend to get back out. We continue to see a sense that if I'm going to travel within my own state, and that I want to stay close to home. So again, that bodes us well that we have a lot of people in the Great South Coast region that want to travel and visit the Great Ocean Road region. So we can really draw on those people that are in our immediate vicinity. And what we've really seen, as I said, the perceived appropriateness of advertising continues to fall. So a lot of our messaging has been quite subtle, not calling for action now, but trying to keep top of mind so that people will come back once we're able. From a Great Ocean Road point of view, our recovery program is kind of across the 4 key pillars, looking at how we can support industry. So we have had a free package in the marketplace. That is extended now to at least the end of October, if not the end of the year, but really trying to make sure that we do provide you as industry support and have as much product sitting behind us as possible to really present the breadth of our offering to the consumer. We've also worked really hard to try and keep you informed and providing you with the latest updates, but also there's quite a bit of training there. So if you're looking to try and expand your offering, looking to improve on your own marketing skills, please make use of that training. It's all free. Marketing, as I sort of talked to, and we see, and Lee will talk to that a bit more in detail as how we'll progress through the markets. We also think as a part of our long-term recovery, now is the time to really consolidate the investment in infrastructure and product development. We are a region that is part of a city deal. There is a significant amount of public investment that is slated to happen. If that can be accelerated, it gives us new news to talk about, new reasons to come, but improves the visitor experience. So we see that as really important and a time to really consolidate on the visitor management. As I said, there's quite a lot of training there on the website. I've popped up the link there just to remind you, whether it be making sure that your digital presence is really front and centre, that you're in there, you understand Google My Business and you're keeping that current with what's happening. As we move through restrictions easing, it's really critical to keep your Google My Business current so that consumers know exactly what's open. As we start to reopen, we're going to have this real challenge that not everyone will open at the same pace. Businesses are trying to do what's going to make them financially viable and weighing up whether they're going to be 7 days a week, just weekends, working within their cash flow within JobKeeper. So having Google My Business with the most current and up-to-date information around what's open is critical. And it's critical not just to encourage visitors, but also to ensure they have a great visitor experience. But there's lots of other bits and pieces there in training, photo courses, website optimization. Most of you would have possibly seen, or I hope you've been seeing, that the latest state campaign, Click for Vic. This campaign was designed to try and make sure Victoria wasn't losing a lot of market share when most of the other states had got back to marketing and we weren't yet in that space. It was really trying to highlight the breadth of our local products across the state and really encourage people to buy local from their very home. We've had lots of operators that are participating in the Click for Vic campaign, on Click for Vic or on the Victorian Country Market and some of the other channels. And this, as I said, has been really successful in driving some noise about getting out into regional Victoria. The first phase of this was really aimed at getting people to buy product at home, but then extending to showcasing our makers and creators and getting people out into our regions to experience things firsthand. And I'll just hand over to Lee.
Perfect, thanks Liz. Do you want to, I'll share my screen if that's all right. There we go. That's all set to go, Liz.
Yep, good.
Perfect, thank you. So I thought I would just start off by giving you a little bit of an overview of our recovery strategy and how each of our campaigns working together and how our always on marketing strategy works. So as you'll see first up in this slide, Liz just spoke about Click for Vic, which is our state campaign and targeting our local market, and you can see there how you can become involved, and I'll go into these campaigns in a little bit more detail as we go through. As we start to open up, and we got some news today which is exciting. We will start to move into a local VFR campaign, so targeting friends and relatives to come back to the region. And then moving on to our key market of Melbourne and regional Victoria, and you'll see there we have a campaign around 52 great weekends, and that will also work in line with Visit Victoria's campaign. So the first phase was Click for Vic. The second phase talks to makers and creators, but also staying close going further. So it does have a component of road trips and bringing people back to the region as well, which we'll be able to release a little bit more information in the coming weeks. And then you'll see our plan and how we can capture that interstate and international market. So just to talk a little bit more about our always on approach, we haven't stopped through this time. We have been engaging with our audience and keeping the Great Ocean Road and region top of mind. So growing our organic reach, building our engagement and driving visitation across our digital platforms. So you'll see here we've kept doing that for our web content, Facebook, Instagram, SEM, SEO, digital advertising, and that always on strategy will always target our key experience pillars, which is big nature, active adventure, saltwater wellness, curated culture and village inspiration. And one of the ways that you guys can, I guess, leverage from our activity and leverage through those our large audiences through those digital platforms. First one, and it'll always be our first, is to make sure you're visual online. So making sure you're taking advantage of that free listing, your A2DW listing is up to date, and also looking at your Google My Business listing, which Liz touched on before. We do have a video on how to do a health check on that for your business on our training hub, as well as some tips and tricks on how to make sure that's up to date. You've got your up-to-date opening hours, and you are visual when people are trying to find what businesses are open and activated. Partner with other businesses. So we know that coming out of this, people are going to be looking for deals and packages, and so how can you work with your other industry partners and people in the region to I guess come up with a core package that's going to really attract that visitation and click through. Share the love, which I know a lot of you have been doing already. We've been seeing that on Instagram. How can you share what's open? What do you experience? What do you love about our region? How can you share the products and experiences that are open at the moment? So then as we start to open up, and you'll see that now, we do have a plan to go to market with a campaign after the Victorian school holidays, and the research that we're doing shows that even after today's announcement, we sort of had this already set to go, that it's going to be a good time to open up, but we want to do that in a good way and make sure that that sentiment is ready to welcome visitors. And so in saying that, we are looking at a VFR campaign, so calling out to locals to invite their friends and families back to the region. One, to reconnect with each other, and also explore your backyard. And we think that that's a safe way to start to see visitors back to our region, and calling on industry and locals to help us do that. So how this will work is we have got a direct mail activation, which we haven't done in a lot of years, but we obviously want to make sure that we're cutting through and really pulling on the heartstrings of locals and industry. So how this will happen is each person registered with Australia Post in our region, and so specific to Warrnambool, will get a postcard pack in the mail. So I think in Warrnambool there's over 14,000 post packs that will go out, and that'll entail 4 postcards. which will have images of Warrnambool, and it'll be calling on locals to send them out to their friends and family when it's safe to do so and then the time is right, to really call on coming and visiting the region. Plan a trip, let's have a trip, come back to the region and experience it together. So this will be supported with some regional TV, so there'll be an ad on Prime TV, radio, digital advertising, some content partnerships. We have a partnership with Urban List. As Melbourne market starts to open up, we will have a partnership with them where we will be promoting a video and an ad. And that I mentioned that one specifically because that will be supporting this end of the region. So showcasing Warrnambool, Port Fairy and Portland. And we also have a partnership with The Standard. So that will be really calling on locals again, inviting their friends and family back, but also exploring their backyard. So giving them inspiration to wake up along the Great Ocean Road region and specifically Warrnambool. And so to support that, how you guys can participate, everybody, we will have a launch for this and we'll be able to show you some more detailed visual assets, but we will be sending out a toolkit. So each industry partner will get this toolkit, and what that will entail will be tools that you guys can, one, invite your repeat clients back. So there'll be a letter there that you can send directly to your repeat referral clients, asking them to come back to the region and support the region that we love and that they love and come back, and this is what there is to see and do. So there'll be itineraries, there'll be social media videos, there'll be Spotify playlists, Instagram filters, and lots more. Just a lot of content, a lot of imagery, things that you can push out to invite your repeat and referral clients back, but also amplify the message to come to the Great Sleepover, wake up in the Great Ocean Road and Warrnambool, and come back to support the region that we love. So I've just got a bit of a sneak peek here on some of the assets. So you'll see here, that's an example of one of the postcards. So you're invited to the Great Sleepover, wake up to Warrnambool. And so that will go out with the flyer, and then a call to action always being to explore and learn more through the websites. So then as the Melbourne market starts to open up and travel around Victoria is opening up, and even potentially before then, we do also have another campaign which is more of a content campaign. We have just got somebody on board to do 52 great weekends. So that's 52 weekends of content that we will be putting together with them. So that entails videos, stills, blogs, itineraries. And what we'll be doing is we'll be creating that to be pushed out to 52 weekends. So that might be a weekend, you know, the top 5 things to see and do in Warrnambool. And I'll just show you an example of how that creative might look. So, you know, it might introduce Warrnambool on the first slide, a map of where it is, and then the top 5 things to do. And that will be a combination of moving footage and stills. And then the call to action will be to click through to the web platform. So
this is really designed to hone in on our core audience out of Melbourne. As I said, we're worried about them being, you know, hit by everybody else. As somewhere to come, to keep us top of mind. We know that about Wednesday, Thursday, people will often look at the weather and start to make plans for the weekend. So we want to be reinforcing our core strengths and the opportunity to get out for a weekend into our region.
Yeah, so this is obviously just an example of the creative, but I guess the key things that we will be really trying to do some targeted ads with some really visually appealing content, and that will drive people back to the website. So I guess we will, you know, give some more information on how you can become involved. We will be doing some, you know, operator interviews, showing our makers and creators, which will then work in line with the Visit Victoria campaign as well. But also, you know, providing a deal. We're going to be driving all of this traffic to our web platforms. You know, what can you be offering to make your business top of mind? So that is a really brief overview of what we're doing, but also, I guess, what we've got planned. We will have a launch for all of these campaigns where you can, we can go into more detail on how they'll work, and obviously you'll receive that industry toolkit. But we just thought we would, give you a bit of an outline on our road to recovery.
I think what becomes really important is you making the most of the opportunity that's there. What we're seeing is that, as I said, there's so much clutter in the marketplace. We need operators to be putting together really strong retail offerings, making it really simple for the consumer to choose you. Be really thinking about one of the trends we've seen is that, with everything that's gone on, people are wanting greater flexibility. We will see people make last-minute decisions. They'll wait until Thursday or Friday potentially to make a decision, but they are looking for flexibility in cancellation policies, flexibility in booking policies, but also to be thinking, and I think it's a great time for us all to collectively working. We started this a little bit when the first lockdown was open, was really pushing the book direct message. Here's a chance for us to really try and own the visitor experience, be encouraging them with what else they can do whilst they're with you, try to get that second or third night stay, encouraging them to say, while you're here, these are all the other things you can do. But understanding that the people in the cafes and restaurants might be also challenged with the numbers that they can have, that if you've got packages or you're working with those in partnership, we could be pre-booking some of these things to try and maximise our ability to service visitors whilst they're in town. I thought I just would finish on, we were going through these stages. The government has promised quite detailed guidelines, which we're still waiting on. The Premier did say they will be out in the next 24 hours, so we look forward to hearing those. But that will start to give you the guidelines and the support that you need to start to open viably. We know many of you that are doing the hospitality side of things will be starting to think whether or not it is viable to open with indoor and outdoor and what you've got to do. And that's really important, as I said, that you work through what you can deliver, but make sure then that your online presence is clear on what you can do. Can I get your lead to do the next slide? So where we are right now is working on getting that clarity around the industry-specific guidelines. I have had lots of queries from people today asking for specific questions. Keep those coming. I'm working through those with government to try and get answers. So if you have a specific query, please don't hesitate to ask. Lots of things at the moment around what's classified as an outdoor space. If I have a marquee, does that mean it's an indoor and outdoor space? Quite specific questions around communal areas and accommodation establishments. So anything that you have, hopefully those guidelines will be out in the next 24 hours. But if you do have other things that you think aren't being answered, please don't hesitate to drop me an email and I can make sure that they are included in our question pack and get answers as soon as possible. We're also here to try and support you. As you've seen today, a COVID safe plan is required for any business that has any form of on-site operation. Again, we're seeking with the guidelines to try and get templates that are quite specific to different business types to give you as much guidance as possible. And hopefully, if you've got, again, any questions and need help working through something, please don't hesitate to call. I do strongly encourage tomorrow there is a session with VTech on managing a COVID outbreak. None of us want to see this happen, but being prepared helps you to be pre-warned and able to cope better. So there is a great session on tomorrow with the crisis guy, Alan Briggs, around what to do if you have to manage an outbreak, how you manage the media, what you need to do. So I strongly do recommend, if you've got the time tomorrow, that it is worth having a look at being part of that one. And then, as you saw yesterday, there was also a significant announcement of some additional relief type packages. So we really are trying to understand what really is in that latest package, what does it mean for individual businesses, so that we can provide that guidance to you. And we're yet to really see what government's plans are for recovery. At the moment, all of that is to relieve the current situation. We really do see, as an industry, we were the first affected in many ways and will probably be the longest to recover. Probably sobering thoughts to finish on, but it is a long road to recovery. We don't think, even we will see hopefully some good trade over September. We do think it's going to be a long and rocky road, and especially for those that do get a lot of interstate and international visitors. We will be looking, really at 3 to 5 years, I think, before we are in a position to be back to anything near what we were. So I do encourage you all to continue to work with each other, with us, and look to see how that we can continue to work through it together. You have gone through enormous stress as individual businesses, and I really do encourage you to keep reaching out. It's better to share a problem than to go through the problem alone. So thanks for giving us the time today. I have the pleasure of handing over to Helen from the Echo Dev team to give you an update from there. Thanks, Helen.
Hi everyone. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Helen Sheedy and I do work in the Echo Dev team at Council. Just bringing up my slideshow for you. Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone can see that. So economic development, we are really thankful for the chance to present today. We quite possibly are a department that a lot of you might not have had any contact with to start with. So I just wanted to give a really brief, quick snapshot of some of the things that we do and some of the ways that we may be able to support you. So economic development does a lot of things, but a small part of it is business and industry support, and through that support we aim to provide businesses and industry with tools to empower themselves to make changes or improvements or do new things within their business. We've produced a COVID-19 business support plan which outlines a lot of the ways that we're hoping and have been supporting through this time. We also develop a number of marketing campaigns, which I'll talk about our main one in a moment. We provide workshops and training. We also provide different industry programs and as well as we collaborate with a lot of industry partners. So they're the main slides that I'll talk to today. The COVID-19 business support plan that we developed had 3 phases to it: the response, the recover and the rebuild. Back in March, when we were starting to develop the business support plan, we were really quite conscious that the plan needed to be flexible and be able to move in between those 3 phases as we moved in and out of restrictions. With the business support plan, the main areas that we have developed so far that are accessible to everyone, we have what we call the business concierge, which is on the Warrnambool City Council website, and it's got a whole lot of information that may be able to help businesses navigate through this time, especially at times like what we're going through right now, where there's just so much information flooding the market. This is set up, designed to be really a one-stop shop for you to be able to see what is offered, not just at a council level, but a state and federal level, and where you can get assistance and support from. We produced the Get Around Warrnambool campaign, which I'll talk a bit more about in a moment. We've been pretty heavy on making phone calls to businesses, reaching out to them, just talking to them, seeing how we can support them, what type of support they need, and just building that relationship with them. We're a very small team. For anyone who knows, there's 4 of us and there's just under 3,000 businesses in Warrnambool. So we don't obviously have the capacity to get to everyone, but we certainly make our phone lines very open and we welcome any phone calls or any way that businesses might like to contact us. We also bring to the city industry experts and events that perhaps quite often are only available to, to metropolitan businesses. So we try to bring those kinds of resources to the city as often as we can. We've produced a lot of marketing collateral for businesses during this time, and we also ran the business initiatives grants, which were the big grants. The first thing I just want to show you here is the easiest way to see where we're at. So this is the Warrnambool City Council website. If you click onto the Warrnambool City Council website, this is what you'll see. Across the top there, you can see the red bar, and where I've just brought up that circle, support for affected businesses. If you go into there, you'll see this screen, and so this is what we've called our business concierge. And as you can see, the tabs across the top are pretty easy to navigate and self-explanatory about the types of help or support you might be looking for and what we've got for you. A couple of things I wanted to point out on this page was where this circle's just come up here. If you click on that, that's where you'll be able to see the full business support plan, and you can have a read through and see the types of things that we've got in the plan. The other thing that I think is really important is that this yellow button that's just coming up now is where to sign up to our newsletter. We put out a weekly newsletter, which we've done for a number of years, but at the moment it is chock-a-block full of content. There's so much out there that that is offered to businesses that could be really beneficial, and so you can just get this really great quick snapshot of everything that's there and the links to it on that. And the third thing I wanted to talk about was here in the purple, we've developed a whole lot with the Get Around Warrnambool campaign, a whole lot of social media tiles and posters that people can print out. I noticed quite early on in lockdown that there was a lot of businesses just putting up, you know, handwritten notes in their stores or, you know, on their entrances. And so we wanted to create a way where businesses could have professionally designed posters to use, and so we've developed a suite of them, and they're available for people to use, print up and use as they like. If there's any issues with printing or anything like that, just contact us and we can get you a set delivered. So the Get Around Warrnambool campaign, which I'm sure everyone in Warrnambool has seen by now, was something that we developed in March, and we literally developed it just as we went into the first lockdown. It's a long-term marketing strategy that we'd like to see, or we have seen rolled out across all industries across the city. We very purposely wanted to keep the Get Around Warrnambool campaign upbeat, with positive messaging, with uniform branding. We went out early with television commercials and a lot of online videos. I've talked about the collateral that we've developed for businesses, and you would have seen if you've entered town or driven around the city lately, the street banners, the roundabout signs and things like that. There's been a strong social media presence with the campaign as well. And this is just some of the example of some of the posters that we've developed up that are available online. For the hospitality sector, if there's any posters that you think, do you know what, it'd be great if we had a poster that said this, just let us know and we'll get our team to develop it up for you, so then you've got access to that campaign. And we can tailor things to be suitable for you. We also have a poster which I haven't included there, but it's one where you can enter your own text. So if you've got a really specific message that you want to get out, you can. The same branding is available in social media tiles, so that's all accessible for everyone via the council website. I mentioned that we offer a lot of workshops and training. So in the red there, you can see the types of workshops that we've offered over the last couple of months. These are all free. They're all listed in our newsletter and on the website. So there's a whole range of different things that's, you know, different programs that are available. And applications are now open for the Small Business Recovery and Resilience Mentoring Program. And so that's a fabulous new program that's come out, and it actually offers up to 4 one-on-one sessions with business mentors, and so that would be a really good one that I'd highly recommend everyone get on and have a look at. As I mentioned, we also do a lot of programs and collaboration. I'm sure a lot of the people in the hospitality industry will remember the China Host program, which we ran towards the end of 2018 and into 2019. The new iteration of that is called Connecting to Asia, or it's actually Connecting with Asia. We've just had to get the branding amended. And basically, the China Host program was so successful, and it was nationally award winning, that we felt that we'd done so much work in that area. We wanted to continue it on. So Connecting with Asia will be coming, and it'll be starting to roll out towards the end of this year. We still think it's really important to keep thinking about the international market, and a term that we've been coining is the domestic internationals. There's a massive diaspora of international people that are living in Australia, and they will be moving around and visiting friends and relatives. So they're people that will still be looking to have that real Australian experience, but we'll still have the still have cultural needs that need to be met. So that's will be an important part of how the program moves forward. For those of in the hospitality sector that were lucky enough to do the China Host program, there'll be a strong alumni component to Connecting with Asia. At the moment, we're working again with AsiaLink, and we're working really closely with them, and we're still in the design phase of what the new Connecting with Asia program would look like. So if anyone has any ideas or thoughts that they would like to see happen in that space, we'd really love to hear from you. We also do the Welcoming Business program, and so Welcoming Businesses is about making all businesses accessible and welcoming to all abilities, so we can give information to you if you feel like that's an area you need to work on within your business. We've got a whole program there that can help with that. We also run a number of different events, and so information on that is often posted in our newsletter. And as I mentioned, we do a lot of collaboration with other departments within council. So for example, the events department and the visitor centre, as well as a lot of external stakeholders. So one of our most recent collaborations was with the Storytowns podcast tour, and I just wanted to highlight this one to you guys because I think it's one that you might be able to embrace and use moving forward. The Storytowns podcast tour is designed to feature our city's street art and food scene. So it's a little bit of a different take on a lot of the collateral that's out there. I love the Storytowns podcast, the way that they do it, and I think it's a really cool thing for hospitality industry to encourage people to listen to the podcast as they're coming, driving into the city. They're really upbeat and fun, and it's just that quirky side of the city that's not often seen. You could have a link on your website or send out links with your bookings, but I'm just going to show you a quick little video that gives you a bit of a feel for it. I think it's just started then for a second time. So I just finished with the slide to really invite you to connect with us. We're here, we're willing to help. We'd love to get to know you better. And so please don't hesitate to think of us if you want any help with any of the things that you've seen today. So thank you for your time. And now I'm going to introduce Lauren from our events team.
Thanks, Helen. So I'd just like to introduce myself again for those who I've not met. I'm Lauren. I'm the Service Manager for Events and Promotions. So thank you very much for your time today. I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what we've got coming up for summer. I know everyone's going to be really keen to hear what's happening in the events world over summer. The news today is very positive for us, so we'll be planning ahead, making changes as required, but the main thing that we want to do is deliver a safe and successful event program. So we'll be running with our summer guide again this year. It will be an online version, so that just allows us to make changes as and when they happen. So we'll be sending out some information probably around November to get in touch with all of you as we do annually to get some great content to put together in our summer guide, and that will be delivered online. We're also planning to continue with our outdoor cinema program. So that was really successful last year. We had lots of opportunities for promotions and events advertising on the big screen. So we'll be in touch again soon, probably in November, with some dates around the outdoor cinema, where that will be located. Obviously we'll be working to the strict capacities and safety requirements to deliver that. We are planning again on running Beach Fest. Again, just reiterating, we'll be in touch once we have all of the details for those events, because safety is probably the first priority, and it will look a little bit different, but there will be those activities to run ahead with this year. And we'll also share with you any opportunities that become available to promote what you've got going on in your businesses over summer on the big screen. So again, it'll look a little bit different this year, but please rest assured that we are working on a great summer program, and we'll see what that looks like and keep you updated. Some signature events just to give you an update on. We're working really closely with all of the event organisers to deliver these key events. We will have an update for you when we have an update, but just some top line events to give you some info on. The summer night markets, we're working really closely with Kerry and Di from the market, so hopefully we'll have an update for you soon on what that might look like. The carnival, we'll have an update in October on whether the summer carnival will be proceeding again and what capacity that will look like. Carols and the festive events, we're working again closely with the organisers to see what those events might look like, whether they're partially online, delivered live, and will continue to change. The New Year's Eve fireworks, obviously a big one. We'll have an update on that again soon. And then all of the events as they start to proceed and confirm our what's on calendars will be updated for you. So they'll be circulated from the Visitor Information Centre team in their regular updates. So please keep an eye on the Visit Warrnambool events calendar and also our Connect calendar, which is on the Warrnambool City Council website. Some exciting news, I guess, around the announcements today is that business events should be able to take off soon. So what I'm really excited about is our new events destination guide that we're working on. It really will help you promote your business to businesses that are looking at hosting a conference or an incentive group. So some business events positive news, I guess, is that they really fill up the midweek business and shoulder and off-peak times of year. Even a small group of, say, 15 people over 3 nights can really equate to about 45 individual FIT bookings. There's pre and post options that you can add on in terms of accommodation nights. It helps you with your budgeting. There's a higher spend usually for corporate events as well per person travelling, and it really helps you get some business on the books for the future. So what I can suggest is updating your website, as Liz mentioned earlier. All of those details probably need a little bit of a look at and a change to make sure all of the info's up to date with new capacities, all those sorts of things. Have a look at your options that you've got available for corporate groups and business events. All I can say is, it's a great opportunity to work with the industry to share leads, create some really appetising Warrnambool-centric packages and work together, because business events really tick all the boxes. It covers accommodation, tourism opportunities, logistics and travel, all of the things that I guess you guys are all interested in. So we'll be in touch soon with some information on our events destination guide and how you can be a part of that. It will be a free listing, and we're working with our friends at Business Events Victoria to drive business into Warrnambool through, I guess, proactively targeting business events to come here. We've recently worked with Helen and her team in economic development on creating a industry map so that the guys at Business Events Victoria know exactly what's going on in Warrnambool, what our industries are up to, and they can proactively target groups to come to Warrnambool. So a quick update on what we're up to now. Obviously, as I just mentioned, we're positioning Warrnambool as a business events destination. We're working really hard on building the capacity within our events industry to help get through the COVID timeframes around managing health and safety, event management plans and all those sorts of things that will come into play. We're rolling out a few workshops for event organisers. So we did a marketing and operations workshop earlier in the year. Those presentations are still available on the Warrnambool City Council website if you're wanting to refresh your marketing plans or get some hints and tips on operational logistics and things like that. And we've also run a number of virtual events to support local industries. Again, we will be adding all of that to the events calendar, and we're really just working with the local events community to get a really robust calendar available when we can, as well as offering event funding rounds for the future to make sure that everyone's got a sustainable, healthy events budget line, I guess, when the time comes to roll those events out. So that's it from me. I'll hand over now to Paul, Service Manager at Flagstaff Hill. So thanks everybody. I'll wrap up now.
Just while Paul's firing up, just some housekeeping. I forgot to mention at the outset that these slides will be sent to all invitees by email. So apologies if you've been frantically scribing. We'll get all this information out to you as soon as this session concludes. Paul, at the risk of me having to break out into karaoke, are you there? Looks like we've lost Paul, so we'll keep cracking on. Thank you to all the speakers, some key messaging there, and also some key campaigns which we really are asking for your support to get around. And there's no reward for the reticent with this stuff, so please, if you've got any queries, please contact Council or the speakers that have been talking today. Just a couple of loose bits before we finish up. There were some questions, as I mentioned at the outset, that were sent in advance. A couple of really good ones too, so thanks for that. One of them around Council, what is Council doing to ensure Airbnb properties become regulated to make it a fair playing field for all accommodation providers? A good question, a complicated one, which I don't think I'll be able to knock off in its entirety in this session, but I understand the principles that lie behind this question. The laws regulating Airbnb rentals are different in each state, and indeed the laws in certain states in local government are different from the state laws. So there is clearly some way to go towards reaching a coordinated and coherent policy position on unregulated accommodation. I think it's fair to say that relative to other states, Victoria state government and its legislation has probably been supportive or perhaps lenient in supporting Airbnb relative to other states in recent times. So our priority, certainly over coming months, is to get all hands on deck to get businesses active again into recovery mode. But I do recognise the Airbnb policy point, and I know some of the local operators have been having discussions amongst yourselves, which is great, talking about potential policy positions to put to Council. So I'm certainly not ruling that out. If Council had the appetite, it doesn't preclude Council entertaining those sorts of things. But I think our overall position is we'd like to see the state give some more firm direction around policies in Airbnb. But anyway, there's lots of pros and cons around that, and certainly encourage all operators who have a view to come and talk to us, and more than happy to consolidate information into an advocacy piece to ensure that our councillors hear your views. Also another question on the boat ramp and the breakwater area and the status of it. Our engineering colleagues are progressing this work, so I don't profess to be across all the detail of this, but at a high level I understand that business cases are being prepared for a funding submission by the end of the year to state government. As you are probably aware, the port is a state government owned asset, and council at its recent monthly meeting endorsed a dredging plan, a long-term dredging plan over 10 years, and funding to go towards that as an important first step. But I'm not across the specific detail of the further proposals and indeed the associated infrastructure, so I'll refer any inquiries to our website for the latest information and press release around the status of those things. Paul, hello, welcome.
Thank you, Andrew. Apologies for that, everyone. Bit of a device change mid-meeting there. I was ready to pull up the presentation and computer said no, and here I'm on the iPad. Beth, are you able to share the content for me, please? Okay, excellent. All right, apologies again, guys, for the technical issues. So just a quick update on the Warrnambool Visitor Information Centre and visitor servicing as a whole. Like most of you, there's been a huge impact on our staff, and a number of our staff have been actually stood down for a number of months now. The Warrnambool Business Centre has continued to service inquiries to our region via email and social media, and some phone servicing, with the business centre being closed. We did open for a short period in July, and we enjoyed some visitation through that period, but we've noticed that this time even the phone and social inquiries have really died down compared to the first shutdown, which is I suppose a good result. It means that people are understanding that they're not meant to be travelling, they should be staying at home. In saying that, we are starting to see a few inquiries about summer coming through, which is fantastic. In regards to the visitor centre and the gift shop, it is, look, there is potential to open probably earlier than the Flagstaff Hill Museum in light of today's announcements, but we're working through a process there to when it is appropriate to reopen the visitor centre, but full servicing on phone, email and social media as well will recommence. Well, it's been going on, but it will continue until we are at such point in time that we are open. Just a reminder, and I suppose tagging in with what Liz mentioned before, the OTDW listings are available and are free, continuing to be free. The team will be on site and able to assist you with those, and for those of you that haven't received a phone call, you will be getting one shortly, and to try and prompt you to be a part of it, because really the more listings we have for our region, the more comprehensive the Warrnambool offering is to people that are seeking information on tourism destinations. A small insight into the marina tours for this year. They've been quite popular over the last 3 years. There was a bit of a decline last year, but they're ever popular. People are inquiring about them. The Middle Island project are looking to make some announcements or make some decisions on whether they're able to facilitate tours this year in the next at their next meeting, which is next month. But we'll keep you posted on that. And the 2020 Visitor Services Summit. Some of you may have been aware, some of you may not have been aware, that in August this year we were meant to be hosting the 2020 Visit Vic Visitor Services Summit, which would have seen 100 plus visitor servicing staff and council staff from across the state come to our region to talk about Visit Victoria messages, but also showcase our spectacular city to people and make it front of mind for visitor servicing staff across the state. That isn't occurring this year, obviously, due to COVID restrictions. We are earmarked to host that next year, pending the allowability of that sort of event to take place. But what is happening this year is that there's a virtual summit for Visit Vic, which is likely to have more than the 100 plus people that they normally have, because there's, I suppose, a lesser cost for councils and visitor servicing and venues to attend that. So they've actually opened it up nationally, and they're starting to see some interest from interstate and international, with the New Zealand peak body being one of the key presenters at this year's summit. So that's very exciting. But what we do get to do as what should have been the hosts is showcase our region virtually to a bigger audience this year, which is a fantastic opportunity for us to, I suppose, preempt some visitation for next year's summit, but also showcase a business that's seen some success this year through this COVID year that we're having, and that is the Helen mentioned the Storytowns story, which is a great collaboration story between Warrnambool City Council, a startup business, and businesses around Warrnambool. They've mentioned up to 90 businesses from Warrnambool in their podcast to date, and that will continue to grow with future podcasts that they do release. But it's really showing some evolution in the way that we can communicate with visitors, particularly in that podcast, which is a growing space for visitor experiences, and it ties in nicely with some of the world-class art we've got around Warrnambool and some of the businesses in Warrnambool as well. Beth, you can just jump to the next page. Thanks, Beth. Flagstaff Hill slide.
Yep, that should be the flagging slide now.
All right, I'm still looking at the Warrnambool Visitor Information Centre one, but for a Flagstaff Hill update, obviously the museum and village are closed currently due to the restrictions, and if you've read through the road mapping in detail, like I have a number of times now, the key line in it for places like Flagstaff Hill unfortunately falls in the final step, which is that entertainment venues, indoor and outdoor, can recommence according to density quotients. So unfortunately the museum and village is likely to remain closed until Victoria reaches that last step. One of the positives we had through July was that we were able to reopen under a COVID safe plan and put into practice some planning there to make sure that we were safe and that we will be safe once we do recommence. So we're really excited that we may be opening this side of Christmas, but we'll just monitor that and hope that the state reaches its quotas prior to that time. We've got then the night show has remained closed since the first closure, and it's probably likely to remain closed again till at least that 23rd of November, when indoor-outdoor venues, entertainment venues are permitted to reopen. However, density quotients may dictate what capacity we are able to facilitate. So 110 people is a full crowd that we quite often enjoy over summer, and sometimes multiple shows. With density quotients that we're yet to see may end up being more like 40 or 50, but we're waiting to see what those state dictated terms are. In regards to group bookings, we've done quite a lot of engagement with the regular group bookings that we receive, as many of the tourism accommodation operators have probably done as well. The promising sign is that not everyone is just cancelling their bookings for this year. There are some future bookings and reschedulings of group bookings through into early next year. And those group operators are really keen to get back here to Warrnambool, particularly Flagstaff Hill. And it's promising that there are inquiries about pricing and availability for next year. So it's they will come back, and hopefully it's not too long a lag time to get the bulk of the operators we've been enjoying coming back next year. In regards to events at Flagstaff Hill, it's really unlikely, and we probably will pull the pin on the New Year's Eve event sooner rather than later. We've enjoyed up to 2,000 people the last couple of years for that event, and depending on density quotients, etc., the event is likely to not be able to go ahead. As you can see in the photo there, social distancing, although we are a very large site, is difficult with the geography of our site. The Chill on the Hill events, which is the Wednesday nights on the wharf with a bit of local music and local food, we'll continue to assess whether that is a possibility, but with potentially less people in town over that summer period, we'd really hate to take opportunities from local operators to still run events on particular nights of the week. So we'll make sure we're communicating with the industry to make sure that it's kosher for us to do so, but also that we will need to meet government requirements in doing so. But those events get somewhere between 200 and 400 people, so we would need to I suppose put some plans in place, robust plans in place, before we'd be able to run events like that. The weddings and functions, we saw a really strong wedding and function booking, particularly through the first closure for the latter part of this year. Most of those are now being postponed and rescheduled for early next year. There are some cancellations, but I suppose for accommodation providers and food venues, be mindful that with no weddings and functions occurring this year, there is likely to be a bit of an influx next year. So there could be opportunities in that space as the VFR visitors to our region for family weddings will likely come next year when weddings and functions are a possibility. And I suppose the final piece there, which there has been some press on over the last couple of months, is that the Flagstaff Hill Strategic Master Plan is underway. We are pulling together the information. We have engaged a third party who are the experts in tourism destination master plans to help us pull that together. But that body of work is hopefully going to present a picture for firstly the economic impact of a destination like Flagstaff Hill to the Warrnambool economy, then explore some of the opportunities for further development and tying it in with the broader tourism messaging for the region. So that is it for me. Andrew, back to you for any questions.
Right, thank you, Paul. That concludes the session. There has been a number of questions around how businesses can get involved in marketing or get involved in the programs that have been talked about today. The short answer is the industry toolkit and the email and slides that will be sent out to you today will include contact details of those people. So you are encouraged to make contact if you want to have some input into those particular areas. As Liz Price alluded to, it is going to be a longer road to recovery. So I would welcome your feedback on sessions like this today. But I'm also thinking that we need to do more of these sessions more regularly and in a more interactive way. So while social distancing has created challenges in terms of engagement, we've been working the phones hard, but also finding other innovative platforms to use to engage with businesses. And the webinar format that was used back in probably March that Alan talked about was a really successful one that got businesses engaged to ensure their views were reflected. Probably the other thing that hasn't been included in the branch updates today is the holiday parks. You probably saw the announcements that it is going to be a different type of summer for the holiday parks this year. The restrictions that will be in play at the time will heavily influence the densities of bookings, and that's the key message for us, in that up to 3,500 campers are at our holiday parks, surfside and shipwrecked over the summer peak period. And the quotient densities in play make it really challenging to ensure that all travellers are kept safe, and indeed where they might even come from is yet to be known. So we will be holding back on that decision in terms of balloting systems or the densities until further advice is provided. Now, I notice, Liz, you've popped up there. Fire away.
I was just going to say, Andrew, sort of following on from your comment before, it's not going to be, everyone's going to recover at the same pace either. So, you know, what we've seen already in Queensland is some of the accommodations bouncing back. A lot of that has been self-contained homes and things. So some of our traditional accommodation like motels is still suffering. We've seen that there hasn't necessarily been the take-up of tour operators and attractions that there are. So I do think that people need to be conscious that it's not going to just all bounce back evenly, and that we, in our responses collectively, will need to be quite agile in responding to what's happening in the marketplace. The government so far has also really focused on relief. They haven't really given us a pathway to what recovery looks like. And you know, our advocacy around recovery is really going to be responding to what we see happening with the consumer and which sectors are hurting more and how do we really help to rebuild. So I think we just need to all be conscious of that. Some sectors, some types of businesses, some towns will take a lot longer than others.
All right, on that note, look, thank you to all attendees who have jumped in. I hope you have found it useful and helpful. And again, I just wanted to thank all of you for your resilience over the past 6 months, and I'm sure we all have fingers crossed to brighter days ahead. So thank you, keep in touch, and we'll be talking with you shortly.